Thanks for tuning into our seller interview series. Up today, we've got an Amazon affiliate and Adsense site for sale in the car accessories niche. Created in April 2015, this business makes $7,997 per month in net profit, and the listing number for this site is 40619. Now, we do these interviews to give potential buyers more information about both the seller and the sites they're looking to purchase. We hope these insights are helpful for you in making a buying decision. Now, we've got the seller with us today to go through the business and cover everything from niche selection to traffic and monetization. Thanks for coming on, Ivan.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Now, before we dive deeper into the business with some questions, just a quick summary for our viewers out there. This business, as I mentioned, was built in April 2015, has a monthly revenue of $8,429, and the expenses are sitting at $432 with a total net profit of $7,997. Now, that is over a 5-month average. And with the sale, obviously includes the website transfer. The buyer will receive the domain, all the content, site files, redirect domains, related resources, as well as some backlink resources. So, Ivan, can you tell us a little bit about your background in building and running online businesses? Is this kind of your first business, or have you been playing the game for a while?
Yeah, sure. I started about 4 years ago at the end of high school, and I started playing around with AdSense websites and just started making small sites rank, here and there. And over time, kind of transitioned to the Amazon Associate kind of platform after going through some blog posts online. I started to stick to that more than the AdSense thing. And I kind of just over time learned more things and learned from my mistakes. And, over time kind of started to make a few websites here and there. And pretty much that equated to this website.
And how did you come up with the idea for this website? Was there anything specific about it that made you love the niche, or?
I'm a big car nut. I'm a big car fanatic. So I kind of always told myself, don't follow your passion, don't follow your passion. But then I'm eventually like, you know what? I want to make a site about something I love and I can talk about every day, all day, anytime. And the car niche was it. So I was like, okay, how about I talk about a lot of things? And I pretty much stuck to that and everything was correlated.
That's cool. So you actually chose following your passion versus just what looked easy on the Google search. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, man. And I've had a lot of fun doing that. I love it.
So for someone who's brand new to this and they're looking at buying your site, could you just describe briefly how this website makes money?
Sure, yeah. So essentially it's about 90% or more of Amazon Associate commissions and about 8% are from AdSense, and the remaining are the advertisements off of Amazon. And that's about it. And it's pretty much everything's from organic search engine traffic.
Excellent. And why did you decide to sell the business? Why not keep it and grow it? Amazon and AdSense sites tend to be pretty passive. So what's the reasoning behind that?
I've debated on this for a while. To be honest, I've never actually sold a site through Empire Flippers or anywhere. And I wanted to actually have this to be my first experience. And on top of that, I actually want to go ahead and pay off some debt and also use that money to invest into an offline business in my local town.
Very cool. Yeah, that makes sense. So I'm assuming the plan after the sale is, as you mentioned, just pay off some debt and invest into this new project?
Yep.
Excellent. What was the trajectory of the business for those first few weeks and months when you first began it? Was it pretty easy to start ranking, or did it take a while for customers to roll in?
The first few weeks when I actually started building the site, my trajectory was that I'm going to get a handful of visitors here and there, and I'll probably hit, a few $100s a month. And all of that actually started accumulating relatively quickly. The site was aged for a little bit. But when I started actually working on it full time, things actually started to pick up really quickly. I'd say within 2 months, the site made me like $60, and which was crazy. And then after that, it just doubled and tripled every month after that.
That's pretty quick. I mean, obviously $60 isn't nearly as much as what the site's earning now, but still within 2 or 3 months, that's actually pretty quick for an Amazon affiliate site.
Yeah. I put a lot of work into it. I had a lot of long nights of making sure that everything I do to the site's spot on. So I worked really hard to actually get the rankings up.
That's awesome. Now, is there anything you learned from this business that you're going to apply to your future sites, or maybe this offline business you're getting into?
Definitely. What I learned about building this business is that you want to actually build a lot of trust in Google's eyes before you do anything major. That's pretty much what's going to help you, get the rankings up a lot faster. And this was the first site I actually implemented all the trust things, that you would do to make Google, favor your site. And that's exactly what I'll implement in my other sites as well.
Now, by trust, are you talking about like social signals, like having social profiles set up, that kind of thing?
Yep. Like domain authority stacking and social signals, all those things that give the site, more like trust.
Oh, awesome. That's great. Is there anything you tried with this website that didn't work?
Let me try to recall. I comment backlinks that didn't show any results whatsoever. Aside from that, that's about it. I kept it relatively simple in terms of the backlinking strategy, and also the monetization. I kept that pretty simple too. So there wasn't really much that didn't work. Just some backlinking things that I tried that just didn't yield too much results.
Now, I'm assuming, moving to the traffic and earnings here, I'm assuming 100% of the traffic is organic, or are you also getting a bit from social?
Probably 99% is organic. There's probably a couple dozen visitors every month from like Facebook or something, or possibly even like Pinterest. But for the most part, it's 99% Google.
Excellent. And now there's two different monetization strategies used on the site. There's AdSense and Amazon. Do you find that they're about equal, or is Amazon overshadowing AdSense, or is it the other way around?
Amazon is definitely overshadowing AdSense. It's by a big margin.
Excellent. I assume so. Amazon is insane at converting visitors. They're split testing constantly every day, so I think it's hard to beat their conversions.
That's absolutely true.
How stable are their earnings? Do you find that there's some seasonality, or is it pretty even throughout the year?
In this kind of the car niche, for the most part, everything is something you'd buy throughout the year, not specifically something you'd buy in the summer or the winter. Maybe a few things that might be, more favorable during the winter or summer, but majority of the things on the site, something you could buy throughout the year.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, there's all sorts of things to buy throughout the winter and throughout the summer, so I'd imagine it'd be pretty even. That's awesome. We see some sites that have some pretty high seasonality, and that always throws some buyers off, but looking at this, it looks like it's pretty steady throughout the year, which is great. How much content is on the site, and are you currently adding more content on a monthly basis?
Yeah, right now I'm probably approaching over 100 guides, and I'm adding content about 5 guides a week. Now I do that not because I have to, but just because I just want to. I enjoy writing about the stuff. So right now I have about 10 articles in queue. So yeah, I'm constantly adding content to the site.
And so are you writing the content yourself, or do you have a writer that you work with?
I'm writing the content myself.
Excellent. And for a buyer that comes in and might not be familiar with this niche, or might not be car savvy, rather, doesn't want to write themselves, what would you suggest for them?
I'd say probably if they're not familiar with the niche, then of course you can hire somebody on Upwork or something, or iWriter that is actually like familiar with writing about like automotive content. That would probably be the best choice I would go with.
Yeah, both of those are good choices. One choice I find is kind of interesting that a seller mentioned to me is to find writers that are within the niche, that are passionate about the niche. You can always go to Reddit and go to like something related to cars and find a writer through there. He actually had some pretty good luck for the same cost as like iWriter would be, but the person is actually really into the niche.
That's a good idea. I didn't think about that. That's a good idea.
Yeah, it's one of those little content tricks that I've learned that sounds really awesome. I don't know if it works really well. It worked really well for him. I haven't tested it out myself, but it might be something worthwhile for a buyer of this site to look into.
Yeah, worth checking out for sure.
Speaking of opportunities, let's pretend that you are going to hold on to this site and keep growing it. What would you do that would be the least risky path for you to grow this business?
The least risky path by far to grow this business is first, just go ahead and find just different pieces of content. I believe I've covered a majority of the main categories in this niche, but I'd say continually add content, maybe specific products, and just kind of feed them over to the site over the course of 30 days, maybe about 10, maybe 5-10 pieces a month. And on top of that, if you want, you can add some high juicy PBN links to it, although that's not quite necessary anymore. But of course, I'd say just keep adding content. That's probably the safest bet because the site already has an authority established in the Google. So like a lot of the content on the site ranks without any backlinks.
Now, what would you do if you were incredibly risky and just wanted to grow this site as quickly as possible?
Incredibly risky, man. I'd say in that case, point more PBNs to the site and, kind of replicate the process that I did initially. Yeah, point more PBNs and then just go aggressive with the content and do that. But I'd say that's probably the riskiest.
Yeah, I'd say I'd agree. Upping that link velocity, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Speaking,
That'll definitely get your results for sure.
yeah, for sure. Speaking of risk, what do you think the biggest risk is for a site like this that buyers should be aware of?
By far, I believe the biggest risk of the site is the fact that it utilizes a PBN. With any site, PBNs have a risk factor associated with them. So, buyer be aware that it has PBN, but I've done a lot of research on providers and sources where I can get them from, and I did not spare any expenses on the PBN provider. So I feel pretty confident the PBNs in place are gonna be for the long term.
Yeah, it looks like it's been ranking pretty well for almost 2 years as well, so that's good. It's always a good sign. One thing we do say, when you start ranking, there's always the potential of picking up natural links just from the fact you're ranking and getting traffic. So that's one of the cool things with PBNs is that it does eventually become less relevant that there's PBN links pointed to it.
Yeah, definitely.
Speaking of the work required, can you describe the amount and type of work you're doing to maintain the site? Like any kind of weekly tasks or monthly duties that you're performing?
Sure, yeah. So obviously the content editing part is obvious, and you got to do that to keep the content velocity up and help Google know that the site's fresh. But also on top of that, I do also spend some time optimizing the on-page SEO. The meta descriptions, the titles, the on-page keyword density, and on top of that, I also help the relevance of the site by interlinking stuff on the site to help everything on the site actually just rank better. And that takes a little bit of time to do for each article you post. And that's about the only process I go with. I used to add a whole bunch of backlinks, of course, during the previous period, but now it's actually just pretty much the content and also the on-page optimization.
Great. And what kind of skills or requirements would you suggest for someone not familiar with this niche to have before purchasing this site?
Skills, obviously, you got to have, the optimization. You want to make sure you don't, get yourself slapped in the Google's search engines. You want to make sure you optimize things properly so you can get some good quality content. And overall, I'd say the only skills you would probably require is being able to get the content to the site and also be able to optimize it properly so you don't kind of sabotage all their efforts.
That makes sense. Would you be willing to sign a non-compete, basically where you tell a buyer, hey, look, I'm not going to go start a site in the car accessories niche rather you buy my site in the car accessories niche?
Yeah, I'll be more than happy to sign the agreement. I will not compete with anybody.
And how much support are you willing to offer a buyer?
As much as needed. Specifically, I can give them, 30 days of, Skype support, probably, 20 hours. And email support, you can get 6 months of email support from me.
Excellent. Now, obviously, the best case scenario for Empire Flippers and for you is someone come in and buys this business outright. But would you at all be open to a split or earn out, say, like 70% up front, 30% on closing, or some kind of other arrangement like that?
I'm not 100% towards that option, but I'm open to suggestions,
Excellent.
I'm open to, yeah.
Yeah, obviously, it depends on who the buyer is and what the deal is, right? So
Exactly.
So before I ask you my final question, Ivan, just for a quick summary, a little recap for our viewers out there, either on YouTube or watching this on our listing page. This business was built in April 2015, has a monthly revenue of $8,429, has expenses sitting at $432 a month, and a net profit of $7,997. And that is over a 5-month average. With the sale includes the website transfer. The buyer will obviously receive the domain, all the content, site files, redirect domains, related resources, as well as some backlink sources. So, Ivan, what is your best pitch in 30 seconds or less on why someone should purchase this business?
I'd say at this point of the income in the site, I'd say this would be a really good website for hands-off operations. It's getting to the point where within a few months, it's going to have an average income about 5 figures or more. So at this point, while it's at a relatively low average for the income, it would probably be a good steal for anybody looking to the site. I mean, again, like I said, it's very hands-off as well.
Yeah, that's a buyer looking at this site. I mean, just this site alone could replace someone's full-time income pretty easily on it. If you look at the average American income. So it's pretty impressive. It's definitely an awesome reason to buy a site like this. So if you're watching this on YouTube or on our marketplace listings and you want more information, the link will be below the video that would take you to our actual marketplace listing. Now, if you're watching this on our actual listing page and you want more information, You can become a depositor today. All you have to do is click the button, make a deposit, and you'll be taken to the next step. So, Ivan, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure, man.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I really do appreciate it.